What's up, guys? It's Matt. Hope you're having an awesome day today. And I'm going to show you a little something that could be very beneficial for those of you that do pipe work, whether it's handrails, roll cages, tubing modifications to side-by-sides, pretty much anything that you're going to use pipe for. This is Schedule 10 handrail pipe. We do a lot of these, 2-line rails, 3-line rails, handicap ramps, stuff like that. And what I'm going to show you is how to notch and cope pipe. We have 2 different options that we use. I'll show you not the first model that I started the business with. I'll get to that in just a minute, because that one actually I like a lot better because it has more options on it. But what I'm going to start with is how you measure and add for your cope. So I've just got a little something set up here, and we're just going to say measure between, just imagine that these are 2 posts. And what you're going to do, the reason you cope this is so it saddles around the pipe. Instead of having to weld that up and grind it, it'll have a nice pretty rounded end to it that fits nice and snug around there. You weld it up and grind it and looks all nice and pretty. So we're just going to say, just for even numbers to make it easier, so you can hopefully comprehend what I'm saying and understand, and I don't make a mess of it. I do this kind of naturally because I've done it so many times, and I don't really think about it. And so when I'm trying to show somebody or teach somebody, I get ahead of myself. But we're going to say 16 inches. So just say for teaching purposes, there's 16 inches between your 2 posts, and you need to add for the cope on each end. So what I will tell you, and I'll show you in a minute, is we've figured out that the cope on our ironworker takes out 5/16 of an inch. So anytime we're doing coping, we try to just measure 5/16 of an inch. So what we're going to do, you just have to add that twice, because you need 5/16 on this side and 5/16 on this side. So in order to double 5/16, all you do is subtract your just take the bottom number and half it. So 2 times 5/16 or double 5/16 is going to be 5/8. So what I'm going to do is, I've got 16. I need 5/16 here and 5/16 here. So I'm going to make this piece 16 and 5/8. And so what we'll do is go over to the ironworker, and I'll show you how we do the coping with for the straight cuts.
We will grind, build, let go, metalworks, the real deal. Build our business on hard work, quality craftsmanship since 06, and we're ready to grow it even bigger. We grind, weld, build, Matco metalworks, the real deal. Let's grow. We weld, grind, build, we're the real deal. Matco metalworks, let's grow.
All right, so we're over here at the Scotchman. This is a 50-ton machine. It has 50 tons of punching, shearing capabilities, and it can do shearing down here. It's got a 14-inch, I think it is, 14-inch shearing capacity here, 1/4 inch thick, and can also do 1/2 inch at 8 inches wide. Over here on this side, you've got what I call, it's like a notcher. We use it a lot doing chimney caps, box pans, stuff like that. We take a box or a pan and we notch the corners, say for a 2x2, something like that, and then we bend the pieces up. Up here you've got your punch, where we use for square holes and round holes for handrails, and a variety of different things. Actually, we've got a set of round punches and square punches. And then up here you can put different attachments. We've also got it's over there, we've got an angle shear. We don't use it very much. The biggest thing we use on this is the punch for the square and round holes, and the coping machine right here. So you can get different attachments for these, and they just unbolt here. You just take these bolts out, pop them off. You can get little brakes and stuff like that. We've tried those and didn't have good luck. I actually bought a little mini brake to go in here, and I sent it back because it was just didn't have very good luck with it. So maybe it was operator error. That wouldn't surprise me. So I'm going to turn this on, and what I do there's a line on Schedule 10 pipe, Schedule 40 pipe, and I use that as a reference. Sometimes you're coping on that line, sometimes you may need a line there. Seams matter because we always try to have our seam facing down, facing in if it's opposed so you don't see it, especially if it's getting powder coated. My automatic drain on the air compressor there. The seam, we always try to go down. Painting covers it a little bit better, but to grind and what I call feather these out takes a very long time. So we try to just point them down, point them in. It's kind of a habit. So like I said, painting covers them up, but if you powder coat, they stand out like a sore thumb. So you know, you want to be mindful of where that is. So for video purposes, I'm just going to show you, but what I do is I'll line this up. There's two little marks here, and I use them as guides. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide that in. You push it up, you hold this level, push the lever down, and it's going to pop that bottom one off. And so there you have a 5/16. So if I put a flat edge, and that's how we found this, you put a flat edge here and just measure down, and there's 5/16 at the very bottom of that cope. So now you've got a nice little pretty saddle. And what I do, because you need both sides, this only does straight. That's the one thing about this iron worker, is you can only do straight. You can do very, very minor angles just by adjusting how far in and out you put your piece of pipe. But normally I don't even do that. I'll actually just put them on the other one. I'll show you here in a minute how we do angles. But what I'm going to do is when I talk about these lines, I actually use them as my guide, as my reference to keep this piece completely straight, so you're not up and down. Let's see if you can see that. But if I turn just a little bit, my cope will be off and it won't line up with each other. And so you want those to be perfectly in line. So what I'm going to do is I use those lines there as a reference, and I get them lined up perfectly straight with those. Make sure you're pushed all the way in, and there you go. You have a nice pretty cope, notch, whatever you want to call it. Now the trick is you got to do both sides. So back here, what I've got to do, and you can also take a little trick. You can take a piece of pipe. I do it by eye just because I don't want to stop and take the time to. But what you can do is, you see here where my hands are, what you can do is take a piece of pipe, line it up here, put it in the cope you just did, and put a level on this. And that'll get you exactly perfectly straight. So your cope on this side matches your cope on this side. But you can also look straight down on it, and I can tell you that that's extremely close to being straight. Plus, remember, I've got my seam that I'm using as a reference. Once you do that, it's just a matter of flipping it over. You've got one side, and then you need to do the other side. So once again, we're going to use our lines as a reference. Make sure your hands are out of the way. Another good tip, always make sure your other work areas, because when you're punching or shearing, so we're on the shearing side here, this is a punching side, this is a shearing side, you want to be sure your tools are out of the way. I've got a wrench somewhere, it's a crescent wrench because we use it to take the dies in and out on the punch, and it's missing half of the gear in it because it got left and was too close. And I'm like I said, once again, operator error, I probably did it myself. I make lots of mistakes. It's just the way it is. You break stuff and bend stuff and you learn from it. But anyway, make sure they're clear and make sure your tools are out of the way so you don't shear them off like I did. So now we've got both these pieces. We're going to go back over to the table and I'll show you what it looks like with those nice and snug in between your two posts. Alrighty, so back over on the work table, you've got your coped ends. Sometimes you might have to just take a flap wheel and clean them up. Usually they're actually pretty good. And we're just going to take them. Remember, seam matters. So we're just going to imagine this is the bottom of the rail. We want our seam in. And now you have two nice pretty saddles very quickly. Now, like I said, that only works for the straight. So I'll get you a little bit closer here so you can see how nice and snug they are. So there's no gaps there, and that's what you want. That way you can weld that up. We grind all the welds on these. That's just the way we do it. I grind all of this. The only time I don't grind is if it's on an angle, for instance, like that, and you can't get it in there. And we'll usually just hit that with a file or a little die grinder just to knock the burrs off. But there you have a nice, pretty, notched, coped piece of pipe. So now let's look at the other option we have, which is our Baileigh tubing notcher that you can actually use for doing angles. Okay, so what you have here is the Baileigh TN-250. Now, I think they might have made a few modifications. This model is, I think I bought this in 2013 or 14-ish, somewhere around there. And this will run you about, when I bought it, it was, like I said, that's been quite a few years ago, it was about 500 bucks. Now it's probably like $8 or $8.50, I think last time I saw it on the Baileigh website. But these are absolutely amazing. I would not take anything in the world for it. If it breaks, I'm gonna buy another one. It mounts in a vise, so you can use it here, portable in the shop. You can put it, if you got a vise on your work trailer, on a job site trailer, or if you got a vise that mounts in your hitch, you can do this on site pretty much anywhere. So we've already got it set up. We've been using it actually for, if you watched the video the other day on those platforms, we've got it set up for, I think it's 33.5 or 35, whatever it was. So I'm gonna leave it at that. The hole saws, they're just normal hole saws. These are Lennox. It doesn't look like it's because it's worn out. This has a bunch of holes on it. It's still doing very good. If you take it easy, use fluid. We use WD-40. We also have some cutting fluid we spray on it. It really doesn't matter. It's just something to cool it down. So we're just going to use our same numbers from the last one. Just imagine it's 16, so we're going to add 5/8. So we got our piece cut 16 and 5/8, and we're going to do a 5/16 cope. We got the angle cut. This is set to the angle, and what I do is I'll look in here and I'll make sure this is straight up and down. I'll actually slide it in to my cutting saw, the hole saw, and I'll slide in and line this up so I know that my angle is lined up with the hole saw, and I know that I'm straight up and down, because otherwise this could easily get turned. So it's just a good way to check yourself. And then what I do is I'll slide it in, I'll get it close, I'll kind of slide that over. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold this up here, and I'm gonna eyeball from the edge of this pipe to the outside edge of my hole saw. And I think we're good right there. 5/16, slide it just a little bit. And then you want to snug this up. And you don't have to be crazy tight. You do want it snug, because you'll see here in a minute, it's pretty aggressive how this thing cuts. And all we use, you can use a battery operated drill, which is normally what we use. And it's gonna go here, but our drill, the chuck on the battery one just kind of died, and I haven't replaced it yet. So what we're using right now is just a DeWalt corded drill. You can use either one. That's how we started. But this is just a DeWalt 1/2" drill. This is kind of a heavy duty one. I will tell you one thing that happened on this. The piece that goes in here that actually, normally what you do is you actually just go straight from your chuck onto here, and that's how it attaches. You don't have these sockets and stuff. Ours stripped out just after years of use, hundreds and hundreds of holes. It's stripped out. So what we did, we just drilled and tapped this and threaded these nuts on here, and these are just some 3/4 inch nuts, and it kind of just put a band-aid on it until I can take this whole piece out and make a new one, which is the plan. Eventually just put it on the lathe and make a new piece. But so what you do is just slide this on. You're going to squirt a little bit of WD-40 on your bit onto the pipe. Make sure it's snug, and always wear safety glasses, because you'll see it's pretty aggressive and throws little pieces everywhere. Always have gloves on too. These are really good for new people, new guys. If you're starting out, You don't always have to wear welding gloves. These work great for doing pipe work or any work actually, where you're holding metal, moving metal, cutting metal, because they have, a lot of them have a coat on them of oil from the factory. You're spraying WD-40, you're doing different stuff. That will absolutely ruin a pair of leather welding gloves. So they're a lot cheaper. You can get a pack of these from your local welding supply store, and they're like $4, $5, $6 a piece, I think. We just buy them by the pack. I think they're 20 or something, 20 in a pack, 25, and it works out great. So anyway, so here we go. I'm gonna get this going here. We got a little bit of WD-40 on there. Just get it started. And there you go. So here's the straight piece we just did, and I'm just gonna move this out of the way just for video purposes, so you can see how it coped both sides 5/16 of an inch, but it's on that angle. So here's the difference. You've got a straight cope here, and then you've got your angle at 33.5 here. Once again, pay attention to your seam, because that's the bottom side of my cope. That means it's gonna be on the bottom where nobody sees it. Nice and clean, out of the way, you don't have any seams. And so this is what it looks like when you put it up on your post. Nice and tight. Once again, this one, the straight, same thing. So there you go. Pretty simple, but it does take a little time to figure out the angles, figure out how far you need to put it in the coping tool, the Baileigh. The ironworker, the notcher, is pretty simple. That one you can't really, mess up, because it's only one way to do that, other than lining up your top and bottom cope. So once again, you've got your angle, and then your straight, nice and tight. And like I said, pay attention to your seams. So hope this helps. If you got any questions, definitely feel free to ask. That's what we use. There are other options, like high-end race shops, stuff like that. They use some different models, but this is what we use and absolutely love them. So hope this helps. The cost of these, I think I told you, the one on the Baileigh. Now the ironworker, for a 50 ton, you're probably looking at about 10,000, and I think the notching coper is probably $500 add-on. That doesn't come with it. So that's it. You didn't even have to see my ugly face today. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and we'll see you on the next video.